Apa wanashuka wanaenda. Ile like bado iko sawa? Ile like ya pale kwa hapo. Bado iko. Nataka nichukue. Sikia hapo tena. Okay. nilikuwa nakuulizia saa hii.
That right now Kenya is suffering in one portion of its country some devastating floods, and I extend my deepest condolences to all those affected, and you know the World Bank will be there with you throughout this period, sir. This is the tragedy and the challenges of climate change. 4 years of drought followed by floods, and this is one of the reasons why, as the Cabinet Secretary spoke, the livable planet is such an important part of our future. These moments are devastating for families and for communities. They pull countries backward. They darken our hopes. But the horizon of Kenya, the horizon of the continent, I'm firmly convinced, remains very bright. We are here united by a shared vision for the future of Africa, a continent that is rich in diversity, in culture, in potential. It is very easy to feel hopeful when we are together anywhere in Africa. You feel the sun on your face, the wind at your back, the fertile and mineral-rich earth under your feet, and most importantly, you feel the infectious energy of young people. But these are the ingredients that can power the future. They are not new blessings, and over the course of history, this abundance has too often brought profiteering rather than prosperity. Today, we are focused on a brighter future for every country on the continent and the people who call it home. The International Development Association has been a steadfast partner in Africa's development journey. This summit symbolizes our objective commitment to accelerating progress. But we have to move with urgency, we have to move with purpose, and we have to have a focus on results and on impact. This will require more from IDA, it will require more from all parts of the World Bank Group, it will require more from governments, and it will require more from the private sector. We stand at the cusp of a new era of growth and prosperity for Africa, or we have come together merely to admire its potential. The choice of where to go with that is ours. IDA remains dedicated to supporting your efforts, to investing in the people of Africa. We are working to make IDA more efficient. We are working to make it able to deliver faster by cutting burdensome rules, requirements, and redundancies. We believe a simpler and reimagined IDA can be deployed with more focus to make meaningful impact to advance the fundamental needs, energy access, healthcare availability, realize the agricultural potential of this continent, and build out critical infrastructure and skills in its people. We see boundless opportunities to advance your development goals, but we're going to have to work for it, and that should guide our discussion as we go forward today. Let's harness our collective energy, point it towards making impacts that will resonate for generations to come. Once again, let me extend my deepest gratitude to President RUTO for hosting in this beautiful country, and to each of you for traveling to be with us today. I look forward to interacting with you as the day goes along. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. And before I move on to the next part, just to recognize also the presence of His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana. We also have the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, His Excellency Abiy Ahmed, who's joined us as well, and Prime Minister Cote d'Ivoire, His Excellency Robert Bagre Mambe. At this point in time, Your Excellencies, allow me to now invite my co-MC, the wonderful and gorgeous Yvonne Dege, who will guide us. Why don't we put a warm welcome as we welcome her to guide us for the next part. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Michael. Thank you very much, Michael. Welcome again to the IDA for Africa Heads of State Summit, hosted here in the beautiful city of Nairobi, Kenya. As Michael said, I'm Yvonne Dege, and I'm looking forward to guiding you all through a very exciting session by the heads of state. We are very happy to welcome you at this event, which is dedicated to IDA, the International Development Association, which is a partnership between donor and recipient nations. IDA is the World Bank Group's fund that works with countries to achieve sustainable growth so that they can chart their own future. A special welcome to our audience joining us globally via World Bank Live, across Africa via CNBC, and locally through Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, KBC. We also have simultaneous interpretation in Swahili, French, Arabic, and Portuguese. Channel information can be found on signs in the room or at the bottom of your screen on World Bank Live. Wherever you are, please join the conversation online using the hashtag IDAWorks. At this moment, it gives me great pleasure and an honor to invite His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, William Samoei Ruto, to the podium. You're welcome, Your Excellency, for opening remarks.
Your Excellency, President Mohamed Ghazani, Chairman of the Africa Union Assembly, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Your Excellency, my friend, Ajay Banga, the President of the World Bank Group, Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to Kenya. On behalf of the people and the government of Kenya, I welcome you all to Nairobi for the IDA for Heads of State Summit. It is an honor for Kenya to host this IDA replenishment conference at this historic venue, the place where African heads of state recently united with a bold vision. Here, we committed to transforming our continent into a thriving middle-income region, leveraging our unique potential to drive global solutions. Today, we build on that legacy by actualizing our potential to provide those solutions through necessary financing. I extend my deepest gratitude to each of you for joining us at this pivotal summit. Your presence not only honors us, but also reaffirms our shared commitment to the International Development Association, our cornerstone for achieving the development goals of our continent and beyond our continent. We convene at a critical juncture, facing a convergence of global crises. This includes escalating geopolitical tensions that challenge international unity, a deepening development and debt crisis that threatens our economic stability, and urgent climate emergencies that demand immediate and collective action for our planet's survival. Today, we gather here, Kenya and the broader East Africa region faces severe flooding that devastated communities, destroyed infrastructure, and disrupted our economies. Concurrently, Southern Africa confronts intensifying drought, affecting nations like Malawi, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. Just last year, the roles were reversed, highlighting our shared vulnerability to extreme weather patterns. As I speak to you in this podium, 10,000 people in Nairobi City are displaced by floods. That is the gravity of the situation. Only a year ago, we had a devastating drought on the other end. This new normal demands our immediate and united action to safeguard our collective future. This underscores the critical role of IDA for Africa Summit. As a cornerstone of financing for Africa, IDA has directed 75% of its total commitments, nearly $26 billion, to our continent in the last fiscal year, with African nations comprising 8 of IDA's top 10 borrowers. This support is not just financial. It is a lifeline for our development and also our stability. And your presence, personal presence, my friend Ajay Banga, in this meeting is a demonstration of the centrality of the discussions that will happen in this meeting and your personal commitment to this continent, which we appreciate. IDA stands out for its rapid and decisive action during crisis, distinguishing itself from other funding sources. Its demand-driven programs, combined with concessional loans of 40 to 50 years, empower borrowing nations to pursue sustainable long-term development strategies. And this is what we have been asking for: long-term, concessionary. We now want to discuss in this meeting scale. That is the only aspect that is missing in this configuration. And as IJ Banker said, two things are missing: scale and design. Make it simpler. Now, more than ever, long-term concessional financing is vital. As many Africans and other developing nations face severe debt crisis, this financial strain hampers our efforts to combat climate change, transition to low-carbon economy, and adequately fund essential sectors like education, health, and social protection. We have frequently discussed the financial challenges that restrict our economic capabilities and reduce our investment in resilience and growth. High interest rates lead to unsustainable sovereign debt, complicate refinancing, and destabilize our currencies. Additionally, the rising cost of living, increased commodity prices, and supply chain disruptions severely impacting our food security, healthcare systems, and overall preparedness for response to crisis. Last year, we brought to global attention that African nations pay interest rates up to 5 times higher than typical World Bank IBRD rates. This year, the situation has worsened. Developing countries are now net contributors to the global economy, contrary to expectations of receiving net inflows. Projections, for example, for 2024 show a net outflow of US $74 billion from IDA countries like Kenya and others to donor nations, while net financial transfers to developing countries have plummeted from US $225 billion in 2024 to now a low of US $51 billion in 2022. Those statistics are glaring by any measure. Given these conditions, sustainable growth remains elusive for African nations as we allocate more funds to debt service than to crucial sectors like education, health, and social protection. This financial strain was prevalent in 2/3 of African countries even before the pandemic struck. Notably, in 2020, 1 in every 4 sub-Saharan African countries dedicated over 17% of its public revenues solely to interest payments. The IMF reports that sub-Saharan Africa's ratio of interest payments to revenue has more than doubled in a decade, reaching nearly 4 times that of advanced economies by the end of 2022. As a result, over half of IDA recipients today face debt distress or are at a high risk of debt distress. IDA remains their most dependable source of patient capital, with every dollar of donor financing enabling an additional US $3.5 in capital market leverage to amplify development impact. This endeavor transcends financial returns. It is about fulfilling our collective global aspirations. Africa's commitment to economic transformation, reducing poverty and inequality, and enhancing human well-being is essential and demands significant capital investment. Moreover, The global goal of achieving net zero by 2050 cannot be realized without Africa's active participation, a failure which would jeopardize humanity's survival, not just African survival, humanity's survival. It is imperative to understand with substantial investment in our vast energy resources, Africa cannot only provide power to all its citizens, including the 600 million currently without access, but also significantly advance global decarbonization efforts. Let me say this broadly. If there was a case to be made for a win-win outcome, IDA is the best example, because everybody wins. The donors win, the recipients win. The donors win because it is an investment for them. For the recipients, it is an opportunity. In both cases, we have winners. The donors will put money in renewable energy, in energy in general, and we can continue world manufacturing and industrialization using African mineral resources, using energy that we have in abundance, and using labor that we have in abundance, and we can share the outcome of that industrialization with the rest of the world. By investing in IDA, we unlock 60% of the world's arable and cultivated land for food security and nutrition, not just for Africa, but for the globe. By investing in IDA, we unlock the human resource potential in our continent, Africa being the youngest continent in the world. Investing in education, in health, in social protection gives us the opportunity to provide 40% of the world's workforce by 2050. Investing in IDA gives us the opportunity to decarbonize global economy and provide for green growth. Let me say this. Our continent possesses 60% of the world's prime solar resources, and our untapped renewable energy potential exceeds 50 times the projected global electricity demand by 2040. However, realizing this requires a shift in investment strategies, with affordable long-term capital at scale being central. Our proposal and request entail a vision for an Africa-driven socio-economic development executed with transparency and inclusiveness, and our case is straightforward. Let me put it this way. Significant capital injection into IDA is crucial. The G20 independent expert group recommends tripling IDA's financing capacity to US $279 billion by 2030, while maintaining the essential concessional nature of its financing. At the very least, and if we cannot do anything else, let us not ignore or wish away this expert advice. We seek not just funding, but a partnership for progress. African nations propose a robust plan for climate-positive growth, aligning with the Nairobi Declaration from last year's Africa Climate Summit to ensure stable, dignified, and sustainable livelihoods across our continent. Africa is poised to transform its agriculture, water security, and energy access, while creating job opportunities for over 4 million youths entering the job market monthly, and expanding our small and medium enterprises as well. Central to these opportunities is our commitment to African-led initiatives. We aim to control our destiny, managing our resources responsibly and sustainably to drive Africa's industrialization agenda using our abundant energy, mineral, and human capital resources. Our commitment to transparency and accountability is in our socio-economic development plans, ensuring the efficient and effective use of IDA is central to our plan. We acknowledge the vital role of diverse stakeholders beyond governments and traditional donors committing to deeper and broader engagement to enrich our development outcomes. We are committed to empower the Africa Union Commission to make it fit for purpose with capacity to engage the rest of the world on behalf of Africa. We are committed to reform the Pan-African Parliament to enhance oversight and accountability over the Commission and establish an African Court of Justice so that we are ready to engage with the rest of the world. Faced with the relentless challenge of climate change and escalating instability, our unity is our strength. Despite the myriad forces that threaten to divide us, we must remain focused on the ultimate goal, safeguarding the future of our civilization, the human race, and the diverse life forms that share our planet. Africa is eager to contribute to the solution. Our continent offers a viable and promising pathway to a future of prosperity for all humanity, harnessing our rich resources and innovative spirit. IDA's efficiency and effectiveness make it a unique force for good. Africa recognizes this, and we don't take it for granted. We are setting an example with our ambitious plan for structural and systemic reforms underpinned by steadfast commitment to tangible results, transparency, and a robust partnership. Given the enormity of the challenge faced by African countries and its global implications as collective emergency, we call on our partners to meet us at this historic moment of solidarity and respond effectively by increasing their IDA contribution from the $93 billion raised in 2021 to at least $120 billion in 2024. As we make this call, we as African heads of state and government commit to play our part by taking deliberate and robust actions to improve fiscal discipline, increase domestic revenue mobilization, develop investor-friendly policies, and enhance anti-corruption measures. IDA exemplifies the best of global cooperation, characterized by compassion, lasting dedication, and a fruitful collaboration. By fortifying IDA, we do more than just honor these values. We significantly enhance our joint ability to tackle global challenges. Let us value and expand the reach and influence of this vital resource. Together, let us be bold, let us be ambitious, and let us act with conviction. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, the President of Kenya, for that important keynote address. Thank you very much, Mr. President. This IDA for Africa Heads of State Summit is a critical platform for all heads of state and other leaders from across the continent, together to highlight IDA's impact and to call for a robust 21st replenishment resources in support of transformational development. An ambitious IDA21 will be a lifeline for a world in crisis, and in particular here in Africa. And to speak about it, I am now extremely honored to welcome the heads of states to deliver their statements. I would like to call upon His Excellency Mohamed Ghazouani, African Union Chair, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania. You're welcome, Mr. President.
Excellence, Dr William Samoei RUTO, président de la République du Kenya, Excellence, Madame et Messieurs les chefs d'État et de gouvernement, Monsieur IDA21, président du groupe de la Banque mondiale, Mesdames et Messieurs les représentants des donateurs de l'IDA et des institutions financières, Mesdames et Messieurs, je voudrais tout d'abord signifier à mon frère et ami, son Excellence Dr William RUTO, président de la République du Kenya, qu'autant je le remercie, et à travers lui le gouvernement et le peuple kenyan frère, pour l'accueil chaleureux et l'hospitalité généreuse, autant je le félicite vivement pour la parfaite organisation de ce sommet IDA-Afrique qui constitue une étape cruciale dans le processus de la 21e reconstitution des ressources de l'IDA. Je tiens également à exprimer mes sincères remerciements au président de la Banque mondiale, M. IDA21, pour son leadership et son engagement en faveur de l'Afrique. Tout comme je remercie vivement, à mon nom propre et au nom de l'Union africaine, l'ensemble des donateurs et parties prenantes de l'Association internationale de développement pour la générosité et la constance de leur appui. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, cette 21e reconstruction des ressources de l'IDA se tient dans un contexte continental et international particulièrement difficile et fortement marqué par des crises multiformes. Pandémie de la Covid, exacerbation continue des chocs climatiques, crise sécuritaire et politique, terrorisme et conflits armés en Afrique, en Ukraine, au Moyen-Orient et un peu partout ailleurs. Ces crises et conflits, au-delà des tragédies humaines qu'ils drainent dans leur sillage, impactent négativement et profondément l'économie dans le monde et particulièrement en Afrique, par leurs effets induits en termes de perturbation des chaînes d'approvisionnement, d'exacerbation de l'insécurité énergétique et alimentaire. Elles ont ainsi des conséquences massives sur les conditions de vie de centaines de millions de foyers dans les pays à faible revenu, en Afrique et dans le monde, et qui sont les principaux clients de l'IDA. Aussi, l'éradication de la pauvreté et de la faim à l'horizon 2030, qui semblait possible au moment du lancement de l'agenda du développement durable, sont désormais hors de portée pour la plupart des pays africains. De même, l'accès universel à l'eau potable, à l'assainissement et à l'électricité sont également un challenge difficile à relever. Les besoins de financement additionnels pour les infrastructures de développement ont ainsi été estimés par la Banque africaine de développement entre 68 et 100 milliards de dollars par an, tandis que les besoins de financement additionnels nécessaires pour que l'Afrique atteigne des objectifs de développement durable ont été estimés à 190 milliards de dollars par an. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, ce bref tableau de besoins de financement montre, si besoin est, l'impérieuse nécessité d'une 21e reconstitution ambitieuse et solide des ressources de l'IDA, au moment où plusieurs de nos États font face à des obligations et des contraintes multiples, service de la dette, choc climatique, conflits et afflux de réfugiés. Cependant, à elles seules, les ressources de l'IDA ne suffisent point. Pour financer notre développement, nous aurons besoin de ressources massives et de ressources massives de financement privé et de financement direct étranger. Nous aurons besoin de réduire les coûts de financement du capital à travers un mix approprié de ressources concessionnelles et de financement au coût du marché. C'est pourquoi je voudrais ici exprimer mon très fort soutien à la réforme engagée par le président IDA21 en vue de bâtir une banque mondiale plus grande, plus forte et plus efficace, une banque mondiale dans laquelle les différentes branches publiques et privées opèrent en synergie. Je tiens également à saluer ces efforts visant à réduire les délais de préparation des projets et à simplifier les procédures d'approbation et de mise en œuvre. Je me félicite enfin de sa collaboration renforcée avec le président de la Banque africaine de développement, mon frère le président Adesina, notamment dans le domaine crucial de l'accès à l'énergie. Et je formule le vœu que cette opération s'étende à d'autres secteurs et inclut d'autres banques multilatérales de développement. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, l'IDA joue un rôle unique dans le financement du développement en Afrique où elle intervient au niveau de 39 pays. 1,5 milliard de pauvres, dont un nombre important de nos citoyens, de nos concitoyens africains, ont bénéficié des financements de l'IDA. Ce rôle doit se renforcer alors que nous faisons face aux défis majeurs des changements climatiques. C'est pourquoi je réitère, au nom de l'Union africaine et à mon nom propre, mes remerciements aux pays donateurs de l'IDA pour leur générosité et appelle à une reconstruction ambitieuse et solide des ressources de l'IDA à la hauteur des challenges de notre époque. Le coût de l'inaction serait exorbitant en termes de fragilité et de précarité, de perte de vies humaines, d'années d'enseignement et d'opportunités de développement, de gaspillage de notre resources notre jeunesse et de dégradation environnementale.
Environmental deterioration. We could avoid such a scenario by making sure that Africa is still on the path of inclusive and sustainable growth. For this, we have a need of human resources and also resources in natural capital, and it is to help us to transform our enormous potential the social to be able to reach sustainable development with which is value added. Reconstitution of the resources from IDA. So convinced that our presence in this summit will help us achieve our objectives. I would pray that this gets to a successful end.
Merci beaucoup, Votre Excellence. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I would now like to take this opportunity to invite to the stage the Prime Minister of the Republic of Côte d'Ivoire, Robert Bourg-Mambe. Bienvenue.
Excellence Dr William RUTO, Président de la République du Kenya, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs,
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, heads of state and of government,
Mr. Ajay Banga,
President of the World Bank Group,
Mesdames et Messieurs, les
ladies and
donateurs,
gentlemen,
funders.
funders.
Avant tout propos,
Before I
je voudrais
begin,
vous transmettre
I'd like to
Les chaleureuses
share
et
with
fraternelles
you
salutations
the
de
warm
Son Excellence
greetings of His
Monsieur Alassane
Excellencies,
Ouattara,
Monsieur Alassane
Président de la
Ouattara,
République de Côte
the
d'Ivoire,
President of the Republic of
qui,
Côte d'Ivoire,
empêché,
who,
m'a demandé
due
de
to
le
other
représenter à ce
reasons,
sommet
asked
si
me to
important
represent him at
sur
this
la
very important
reconstitution des ressources
summit
de
on the
l'IDA
reconstitution
21.
of the IDA Resources
Je saisis
21.
également cette
I also
heureuse
take this
occasion
opportunity
pour adresser
to
mes
address
sincères remerciements
my sincere
à Son
thanks
Excellence
to
Dr.
Excellency
William Ruto,
Dr. William Ruto,
Président de la République,
the President of the
ainsi qu'au
Republic,
peuple kenyan
and also to the people of Kenya for the
et la
hospitality
qualité de
and the
l'accueil.
quality of the welcome.
J'associe à ces
I
remerciements
would
le
also
président
to like to
de la Banque
reinforce
mondiale,
the thanks
Monsieur
of the
Ajay Banga,
to thank the President
pour
of
sa
the World Bank, Mr.
détermination
Ajay
à
Banga, for
réformer
his determination
notre institution
to
commune
reform our common
pour une
institution
grande efficacité des
for
interventions
better in efficiency in
d'accélérer le
interventions
développement
and also
durable de nos
accelerate
États.
sustainable development in
Comme
our
vous le
states.
savez,
Like
cet important sommet
it is this important
vise à
summit
renforcer la
also
mobilisation des
strategizes to
ressources de
mobilize
l'État
resources
pour les 3
either
prochaines années.
for the 3 coming
En effet,
years.
Les
So
gouvernements des pays à
the
faible
governments of the
doivent
low-income
aujourd'hui
countries need
faire
today
face à des défis
to also,
majeurs
they are faced
et
by
de plus en plus
major
importants
obstacles that are
dans
becoming
un
bigger and
environnement
bigger
de
in an
ressources
environment,
limitées.
in an environment where
En ce
the
qui
resources
concerne la
are
Côte
limited.
d'Ivoire,
When it comes to
la
the Ivory Coast,
la modernisation de l'agriculture,
modernization
des
of
secteurs
agriculture and the
productifs,
production
le développement
sectors,
du secteur privé,
development of
et
the
l'emploi
private
des
sector,
jeunes
and also employment for the youth are the main obstacles.
Par ailleurs, avec les menaces sécuritaires au
With the
Sahel,
security menace problems in the Sahel, the Ivory Coast has a high growing number of refugees and also who are more than in their millions today, who are also pressure on social services and also need a lot of government interventions. So we are calling upon IDA and to
mon pays sollicite un appui
my
de la Banque
country
mondiale en
needs a lot of support from the World Bank to be able to be more resilient. That is why the Ivory Coast, which also came up to advocate for more resources from IDA, is also involved in following up on these efforts in reconstituting the IDA 21. So it is with pleasure that my country,
le 9 et 10 octobre
from the 9th to 10th October of this year, the African Economic Summit will seek to mobilize main finances and partnerships with Global Citizen and Bridgewater Associates to support the campaign to also reconstitute IDA 21. And I'd like to also send an appeal to our funders and also to the World Group and its partners that they mobilize resources, IDA resources, to help governments to face the problems that are becoming more and more bigger and more complex. Ivory Coast supports all the efforts of World Bank and its partners. I thank you all for your attention.
Merci beaucoup, Votre Excellence. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for those words. I would now like to call on His Excellency Yoweri Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, to give some remarks. You're welcome, Your Excellency.
His Excellency William Ruto, the President of the Republic of Kenya, the Chairperson of the African Union, President of Mauritania, and their Excellencies, the heads of state and government. This is a topic I can speak on for the whole day. I'm therefore glad we have had this meeting where the presidents of Africa meet with some of the Western leaders. The crisis which is in Africa today is because of philosophical, ideological, strategic, economic mistakes, which we have been talking about since the 1960s. This is not an accident. When you see the crisis in many of the African countries, the collapse of states, we predicted this in the 1960s. Philosophical, ideological, strategic mistakes. I don't have time to amplify each one. But I was very happy to hear the president of the World Bank talking about prosperity instead of profiteering. These were his own words. That's what I picked. This has been the problem. Aid has been for profiteering. This has been the problem. Now, the World Bank people and other groups have been talking of sustainable development. Even in your documents, I have seen those words there. Sustainable development. I am now going to be 80 years old. I have never seen sustainable pregnancy. That a woman is pregnant this year, the pregnancy continues next year, 3 years, 4 years, it never happens. In life, pregnancy develops sustainably within the womb of the woman. Quantitatively, the baby is growing bigger and bigger. But at some stage, quantitative growth must be transformed into qualitative change. The pregnancy must become a baby. If the pregnancy remains pregnancy, the fetus will die. So therefore, I would even ask you to change those words in your documents. Africa does not need sustainable what? You could call it sustainable underdevelopment. Africa needs socio-economic transformation. The pregnancy must become a baby. The baby must grow and become a teenager. The teenager must grow. That's what happens in life. You cannot have quantitative growth and you think you are doing anything. The main reason why there is no growth is because the growth factors are not funded. They are not even understood. What are the growth factors? We now talk of private sector-led growth. Yes, but for the private sector to grow, what does it need? It needs low costs of production. Ministers of Finance, low costs of production. And what are the low costs of production? Number one, transport. You must have low transport costs. Where do low transport costs come from? From the railway. If you don't fund the railway, how will you get low transport costs? Wonderful people, Banco Mundial, IMF, all of this. Where will low cost of production come from if you don't have a railway? I have been here for the last 64 years. I've been watching as a student leader, as a freedom fighter, now as the leader of a country. How many railways have been constructed or funded in Africa? The few that have been was by China, the Tanzania Railway to Zambia, and recently China, another one here in Kenya, and then Tanzania on their own, they are building a railway line. So if you are talking of helping Africa, the railway, I don't want to be involved in any other words, no, please. The railway, because if you fund the railway, you will have low cost of transport, and you can produce products which are cheap, which can be bought in the world. So you audit how much funding, all these billions you are talking about, how much of it has gone to the railway. Audit it. The second cost pusher is electricity. If you don't find electricity and you talk about sustainable development, what are you talking about? Private sector-led growth. Maneno tu. Electricity, we must have low-cost electricity, not exceeding 5 cents per kilowatt hour. That's what I insist on in Uganda. I'm tired of all these stories. These neo-colonial civil servants who have been holding us back, I have put my foot down, say I don't want to hear those stories. And Uganda is developing, and it will develop, because I don't entertain that nonsense anymore. Borrowing for what? Capacity building. Imagine. Seminars, they call you in a hotel, you eat chapati, you eat mandazi. They say that is capacity building. Capacity building should be on the ground, not just seminars. So, the second point, Excellencies, electricity. The third one, those people who talk about private sector-led growth, I have been trying to borrow money for our UDB, Uganda Development Bank, a bank which funds manufacturers. No, I don't get support for that. Instead, they want me to go, my people to go to commercial banks. But commercial banks cannot give, no, those commercial banks are to encourage imports. Because the only person who can borrow money and pay it back from a commercial bank is a trader who goes to China, goes to where, Dubai, brings products, sells them quickly, and pays back. So, if you are serious, I need to hear about the low-cost funding for manufacturing. Not for stories, not for what, no, manufacturing. How about funding for irrigation? Because if you want to stabilize agriculture, a country like Uganda is very rich, we have got everything. But still sometimes we get some erraticness in the rain. So in order to stabilize, I've been trying to look for a loan for irrigation. I can't easily get it. Very difficult to get. A loan for seminars, very quick. The civil servants, what? But a loan for irrigation, you don't see. Now, finally, the loan for, I don't know the situation in other African countries, and I don't have time to talk for a long, I don't have opportunity to talk for long. But Uganda is a very rich country. But one of the problems we are having was that our people were outside the money economy. They were in what they call subsistence sector. They just produce for eating, produce for eating, produce for eating. Wanashughulikia tumbo tu. So I was looking for money. Please give me money to give coffee seedlings to these fellows who are just producing for the stomach, so that they can produce for the stomach, but also produce for the pocket, so that they join the money economy. You cannot imagine that by 2013, a few years ago, 68% of the homesteads in Uganda were still in the subsistence sector, in the non-money economy. You audit your countries. What is the situation? What is the percentage of the people? So I had now to use my own money, because I couldn't borrow money from anybody. The loans are for capacity building, for, I don't know, sometimes they give for ICT, but ICT is a communication system, mainly. What are you going to communicate on that communication? How are you? Good morning. And you think that is communication. Why don't you have ICT linked with agriculture, linked with industry? Oh, now the digital. Are you eating computers? Have I seen anybody eating computers? Just running up and down, maneno tu. So I was insisting that all these Ugandans must be in the money economy. 2013, not long ago, 68% of Ugandans were outside the money economy, because Uganda is a very rich country. A fool can survive there. In other countries, fools die. But in Uganda, fools can thrive there. They just eat. He stays with his brothers. He eats. He goes from there to the sister. He eats. He's not earning anything, but he's eating. So we said, no, everybody must be involved in the money economy. We couldn't get any support for that. But we funded it ourselves. Each year, we spend about $300 million of our own to make these villagers join the money economy by producing for the stomach, but also for the pocket. And from 2013, I was now told that for the first time, 61% of the people are in the money economy of the homesteads. It is only 39% that are still out. You imagine those are still there, just eating, no money. So therefore, this meeting is, then you get your neo-colonial civil servants they talk of import support. Imagine there is money for import support. Import support, import support. The governor writes to me, reports, we have got import cover for so many months. But I don't want to import, I want to export. Why don't you tell me about import substitution and export promotion? Instead you are telling me of import support. So money is available for to become more dependent. So I'm very glad to hear what now finally, the KICC, which we told our people about in the 1960s, we told them, part of the wars we fought in Uganda were to get rid of the neo-colonial groups which were there, which were stopping us from thinking. We had to get rid of them by force. But one of the problems was Africa producing raw materials, matière primaire, they call it in Français, matière primaire, raw materials. Imagine coffee. The global value of coffee is $460 billion. All the coffee producing countries of the world, Brazil, us, all these, we only get 25 billion of that. Out of the 460 billion, the coffee producing countries get 25 billion. And Africa gets only 2.5 billion. 900 million of that comes to Uganda because Uganda produces a lot of coffee. A country like Germany, which has no coffee, earns $65 billion from coffee. So, this I sell a kilo of coffee, good grade coffee, $2.5. Somebody in London will get $241 from that 1 kilo. Okay, there are other costs on the way. I don't want to, because he's the owner of a restaurant and so on. But coffee roasting, coffee grinding, coffee packing must happen here in Africa. It must happen at source. The shirt I'm putting on is Ugandan cotton. I don't put on foreign clothes. It's only the trousers I'm putting on because I can't go naked. Because they have not solved that problem for me. So, if you look at cotton, how many job levels are there? Job levels. You grow the cotton. Okay, that one we do. Those jobs we do. We gene the cotton. Kutoa mbegu, remove the seeds. That one we do here. And we end there. When you hear all these countries which have got crisis, Burkina Faso, I don't know what, Mali, all of them are cotton growing countries. But how much textiles are they producing? They're importing textiles, I don't know from where. So now if you end at level 2, gening, removing the seeds, then you take the pamba, you take the cotton, to cleverer people who are clever. Watu wenye akili wako huko. Sisi hapo tutajiita vipi? Kama mtu anakuzidi akili wewe unasema wewe nani? So they take the cotton, they spinning more money, more jobs for their children. They weave. More money, more jobs for their children. They put the print. More money, more jobs for their children. I looked at the figures. Uganda consumes 276 million meters of textiles each year. And that wonderful country of yours spends $880 million on clothes. Some of them dead people's clothes from Europe. When people die, their clothes, they are sent to you people, to Africa. And we spend 800, all the money we earn from coffee goes back to bring dead people's clothes. But we have got one factory there called Nitil. It produces 25 million liters, million meters. So in order to clothe our people in Uganda without importing, we need about 11 factories like the one of Nitil. And they would employ about 20,000 people. So and we would save $880 million, which we are just giving it to other people. So this IDA, what did you say about the modern slavery of the Africans, of producing raw materials? In one of our documents in Addis Ababa, we had talked of Africa producing what it does not consume and consuming what it does not produce. They had put that as a summary in one of the documents of the African Union. We must get rid of the production of raw. I banned the export of minerals from Uganda and process. I banned them. Piga marufuku. Then the agents were going in the corridors, what Mufanyi, no mineral will come from Uganda if it's not processed. You wait until I go away, you can steal the minerals, but not now. I banned this export of unprocessed minerals in 2012. My young brother, His Excellency RUTO, I forgave him and gave him some little iron ore for, I think, 2 or 3 years, because I've got a lot of iron ore, one of the best in the world. I told him, His Excellency RUTO's man, Muhindi wa hapa Kenya, you come and build the steel factory in Uganda at the iron ore. Oh, I've already built in Mombasa. So I said, okay, because of my young friend, I give you some iron ore for 2 or 3 years. But come and put the factory here. Now you can imagine akili ya watu wenu, my civil servants. An Indian wanted to take that iron ore to India, imagine. Iron ore in our language is called obtare, but it is soil, black soil. If you see it, it is soil. To take that to India and do what? Pay your wonderful people $47 per ton. Our iron ore is the purest in the world. It is 70% pure. So you need like 1.5 tons to make a ton of steel. Now, a ton of steel costs $700. Somebody gives you $47 on your wealth, the wealth of your people, and he gets $700 from it. And all the jobs, your children have no jobs, watoto wa Wahindi wanafanya wamepata kazi. I can't be part of that treachery. So I banned, there will be no export of unprocessed minerals from Uganda. So there's no business. What do you mean there's no business? So when I banned them, they are flocking in now. They have opened 7 gold refineries. 7 gold refineries, they are there. Because I banned. The other day I was opening a tin refinery. You can imagine this tin, and Samia may know where we were, the power station. Both sides, the Uganda side and the Tanzanian side. That is all tin. But all this time, imagine, since the British were here, they were taking, walikuwa wanachukua mawe tu, stones, because tin in nature is a stone, looks like a stone. So they take that. And they give my people $11 per kilo. And they take it to cleverer people. For the cleverer people, they get $32. My people got 11, those people get $32. And all the jobs. So when I was opening the factory, I was asking the refinery, I was asking them, this boy who opened the factory is a Canadian. I was asking them, huyu Mkanada ameleta umeme wake. Has this Canadian brought his own electricity? No. Anatumia umeme wa kwetu. Ameleta maji yake ya factory? No. Anatumia maji yetu. Internet anatumia ya nani? Ya kwetu. So out of the $32, much of that money will remain in Uganda. Pay for the raw material, pay for the electricity, pay for the water, all that remains in Uganda. So, what does, first of all, my African brothers and sisters say about this hemorrhage of Africa? Hemorrhage. Echikurukuto, we call it in Uganda. This hemorrhage must stop. The crisis you see in these countries is because of stagnation of the last 60 years since independence. The population is increasing, the economies are not increasing. What do you expect? So with these few words, Your Excellencies, what do I say? Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, President Yoweri Museveni. May I call upon His Excellency, Professor Faustin Archange Touadéra, President of the Central African Republic, to please come and give some remarks. Bienvenue.
Excellence, Dr William Samuel RUTO, président de la République du Kenya, très chers frères, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs d'État et de gouvernement, Monsieur le Président du groupe de la Banque mondiale, distinguées personnalités, Mesdames et Messieurs, permettez-moi, à l'entame de mes propos, d'adresser à notre frère, Son Excellence Dr William Samuel RUTO, Président de la République du Kenya, et au
President
peuple
of
kenyan,
the Republic of Kenya and
mes
the Kenyan
sentiments de
people,
profonde
I'd like to express my
compassion auxquels
deepest
s'ajoutent ceux de solidarité
feelings and
du peuple
express
centrafricain suite aux pluies torrentielles qui ont
Central
provoqué
African Republic
des inondations
following
et
the
entraîné
floods
la
that
disparition
have led
tragique
to
de
the
plusieurs personnes,
tragic disappearance
d'importants dégâts
of
matériels
many people
dans
and
ce pays
also a
frère.
lot of destruction in our
Excellences,
sister country. Your
Mesdames et messieurs,
Excellencies,
je prends la
ladies
parole
and gentlemen, I
ici au
take
nom
to
de
the
la
stage now,
République africaine, mon pays,
representing my
à
country, the
l'occasion
Central African
de ce
Republic.
sommet
This occasion
des
of
chefs
this
d'État
summit or heads of
et de
state
gouvernement
summit,
africains,
summit of the heads of state and government in the ambitious reconstruction of resources of the IDA21 for Africa.
qu'il me soit permis
Allow me
d'exprimer notre
to
profonde
also
gratitude
express our deep gratitude
envers mon frère son Excellence
towards my brother Dr. William Samoei Ruto and the Kenyan people for the organization, the successful organization of this summit, and also the welcome, the brotherly welcome, very warm, which I have known since our arrival in this really dynamic town of Nairobi. I'd also like to thank Ajay Banga, the president of the World Bank Group, for his full participation in this very important summit, for his leadership, and also on reconstitution of resources, IDA21. It is also the moment to express my gratitude to the World Bank for the multifaceted approach that we have been given. I'd also like to thank the entire group of funders in IDA, because it is thanks to their contribution this institution has the necessary is to help the most poor countries on this planet to be able to move to some place. So also the African Union, that it is in Africa that we also find a number of natural resources and strategic minerals, and we find that some of these countries are some of the most impoverished of these countries. And the Central African Republic has had a feeling of this level of poverty that we are talking about in this IDA21. So we talk about 0.8 percentage growth, which means that a child who was born before the pandemic will only realize 28% of his potential if he has received any education and other equity. In 2021, about a larger percentage had achieved basic sanitation, but we also had 80% who had no access to electricity or internet. 2017, according to the United Nations. So in April of 2024, so 40% of Central Africans would not eat a food. So we are told that there are millions of people, that is about 46% of the population, are living in extreme vulnerability in this 2024, and which needs urgent humanitarian action. Now, in such a very difficult national context, exacerbated by the consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic and also tensions at international level, the contributions of the World Group to fight against poverty and also the promotion of socio-economic development are essential, if not vital. In fact, IDA21 had already about $370 million, already showing its importance in our quest for reducing poverty. So this kind of for the construction of a solar near the capital in Bangui to supply electricity to 60,000 inhabitants. So we appreciate
touchés par les déplacements, a soutenu
communities that are displaced, also reaching out to vulnerable households. And when you're talking about $40,000 for each person, allows us to come up, support them to come up with income-generating activities and continue with education. The project, the support project, and the health sector allowed us to open clinics that are open to millions or 1 million people, with about 362,000 prenatal visits, and where people can also receive psychosocial support, especially where there has been gender-based violence in the districts, that also reached 292,000. Now, these figures are 142 million American dollars that have been put in projects, amongst which 16 national projects and at regional level. So cumulatively, we are talking about a reach of 48%. We'd like to reiterate our wish that these projects that are still in the pipeline be fast-tracked to also help us reach a wider group of the population. Like it was noted, IDA financing has contributed to improve on the livelihoods in the towns and also to mitigate the effects of conflicts and underdevelopment. So we are talking of strengthening of actions and also projects, and also as we look at more of the sustainable projects. So when we are talking about 2028, we are capitalizing on the plan to consolidate 2017-2023 program that had been improved on in the Central African Republic, and also the route map that Rwanda provided. We have looked at it with the improvement in the security situation. The new program allows us to move from humanitarian actions to development and also accelerate the economic growth, reduce poverty, and also improve on the well-being of our population, which is young. Our vision, as we look at 2028, is to construct, we have a prosperous Central African Republic which has quality human capital that is resilient and also sustainable, and where to have projects that are that inclusive and are open to governance. So IDA21 to us looks like an historic opportunity for our growth and our development. In order to make use of the potential opportunities that could open up and also the implementation of the PND, our priorities consist of investing in human capacity and also put up roads, digitalization, and also intelligence, and also other projects that also take into account climate changes and also reduce the
et la révolution énergétique. Ceci, en retour, peut contribuer à relever un grand nombre de défis auxquels mon pays est confronté. Pour y parvenir, la République centrafricaine aura besoin de ressources concessionnelles, d'où notre appel aux pays donateurs pour une reconstruction massive de IDA21, à l'exemple de IDA19 et IDA20, dans un contexte de raréfaction des ressources financières à l'international et des lenteurs observées dans l'exécution des compensations de la finance climat en faveur des pays particulièrement vulnérables. Je saisis donc cette occasion pour saluer la simplification des procédures de l'IDA, qui vise à rendre les options de financement plus simples, plus accessibles et plus rapides, afin d'avoir un meilleur impact à plus grande échelle et à plus grande vitesse.
at a greater speed. I'd like to end and reminding us that IDA is a partnership between donor pays and the recipient countries, and help the receiving states to reach, be able to have sustainable growth as they look at having a more prosperous future. It is the wish that I would have for my country and for other countries that are also benefiting from IDA who are represented here. So we are looking at our level of indebtedness and the conditions of the capital markets. IDA21 remains the credible factor that we have when we look at concessionary rates for a country like mine, which has just come out of a fragile state, and also to help us add value to our human capital. I'd like to ask all the traditional funders and also the potential new funders to also make themselves useful, and you contribute massively to the 21st reconstitution of resources of the International Development Association, IDA21, to have a more equitable and just country. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Votre Excellence. I would now like to welcome His Excellency Mr. Azali Assoumani, President of the Union of the Comoros, to the stage. You're welcome, Your Excellency.
Excellence, Monsieur le Président RUTO, que j'appelle Ahmad Abako, un cher frère.
Ahmad Abako, a dear brother. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, heads of government and state, Your Excellency, Monsieur Ahmad Ghazouani, the President of the Conference of the African and the President. Your Excellency Ajay Bango, the President of the World Bank Group, ladies and gentlemen, the heads of international institutions, distinguished guests, ladies and ladies, greetings to all. I'd like to first of all express on behalf of my delegation and on my own my gratitude to our brother, the President RUTO, for the perfect organization of this summit, and also to our brothers and sisters in Kenya for their warm hospitality and in this beautiful town of Nairobi. As we meet for this crucial summit in order to deliberate on the question of reconstituting the resources under IDA21, I'd like to first of all to underline that Africa finds itself today in a crisis, unprecedented crisis. So when we are looking, there are a number of obstacles. There are economic disparities, environmental degradation, security and health crises, and inequalities in education. However, in the midst of all these problems comes an opportunity that is exceptional for collective action and also for transformative change. Our continent is, in effect, has a lot of potential resources to help us. So when we talk about very important human resource, so to be able to play its role in the world economy, Africa needs big investment in a number of development areas. Ladies and gentlemen who are here, so IDA has to be an ally that in our part we're heading toward sustainable development. It is unique in the world where a dollar from the developing countries is also supported by $4 for the financing of development projects. As we engage, this is the trajectory of the IDA21, it is important, it is imperative. We also recognize the indispensable role that this institution has played in the promotion of inclusive growth and also prosperity in Africa. As such, the $23 billion of reconstitution in IDA20 allowed the institution to mobilize $93 billion for financement for the member countries, of which 20% have been engagements that are destined to reach African countries. So we can agree with me that is in a very difficult context of access to financial markets. The IDA instrument needs to be honored, thanked, and also strengthened by our contribution that is very important as partners. Also, we also express our deepest gratitude to all our partners, first of whom is the World Bank. So thanking it for its robust and continued engagement and support that is appropriate to help us do away with the obstacles to development that our countries face. So this robust reconstitution of IDA comes from the simple need that is financial, and also incarnates a moral imperative, and also underlies to ensure that no one is left behind in our quest to be more ready for the African countries. As such, and IDA21, that's ambitious, should give priority to efforts to invest in development areas such as agriculture, energy, infrastructure, and the climatic adaptation before supporting creation of work, of quality workforce of young people and underprivileged groups. So this would be from IDA18, we have been able to get substantial concessionary funds going to the private sector that to help people get out of poverty by creating sustainable employment, economic transformation, and mobilizing resources at national level. Since its creation, so $4 billion of funds have allowed more than $20 billion of investment to the private sector, supported in 47 countries. This has also favored the introduction of new financial resources for development in the eligible countries, also helping to reduce in the domains of that the private sector has chosen to invest in. So I'd like to support this partnership with LEADER for having responded to us and to come up with a very strong and ambitious reconstitution of the IDA21, and that the resources are also meet the aspirations, the collective African aspiration. And in addition to the contributions of our partners, we cannot underestimate the transformative power of technology and cooperation and regional cooperation. So when towards the realization of this SDGs for our economies, allow me also to underline the importance of accepting the IDA21 with as a task that we take with determination, conscious of the importance, responsibility that we have in common. So we need to come to also support this resolution as we look forward to a better future for Africa, because it is only when we have access to this that we can also achieve the Africa that we all dream about collectively. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to underline the situation that island states such as Comoros are facing. So we would also have to have a plan that also takes into the effects of change, like tsunamis, cyclones, and also floods. The situation is very alarming. So this needs particular attention from our partners, our development partners like IDA. So as such, my country is advocating that IDA should come to look at the specific problems that island states that face as vulnerable states. They are very fragile, and also they are also touched in the environmental sector. They face a lot of food insecurity. They also have external shocks of all natures, and also this means that are dealing with very specific objectives that would help us adapt to climate change. And as such, I would like, ladies and gentlemen, to conclude my proposal by a African proverb when we say that we do not handle things singularly. So if we come together to face these obstacles, I would wish us all success in our work, and I thank you all.
Merci beaucoup. If I please may invite the President of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo. Your Excellency, if you could use the podium. Your Excellency, if you could use this podium. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, President of the Republic of Kenya, William RUTO, Your Excellency Mohamed Ghazouani, Chair of the African Union and President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, the President of the World Bank, Mr. J. Banga, ladies and gentlemen, I thank the dynamic President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency William RUTO, for the invitation to speak at the summit of the International Development Association, IDA, and for the hospitality of the Kenyan government. This gathering serves as a platform for collaboration and a catalyst for transformative change. As we convene here, we're tasked with a great responsibility to articulate the case for an ambitious and robust 21st replenishment of the IDA, one that will pave the way for sustainable development and prosperity, not only for the African continent, but also for all nations in need. The challenges we face in the 21st century are immense and multifaceted. From the continuing effects of poverty and inequality to the urgent threats posed by climate change and pandemics, our world is in need of bold and innovative solutions. Yet amidst these challenges lies an opportunity to redefine our approach to development, to reimagine our priorities, and to forge a path towards a more equitable and sustainable future. The IDA, with its long-standing commitment to poverty eradication and inclusive growth, stands as a testament to the power of international cooperation. Over the years, it has played a pivotal role in lifting millions out of poverty, expanding access to education and healthcare, and building resilient communities. However, as we look ahead, we must acknowledge that our work is very far from finished. Millions still live in poverty. Millions still lack access to basic services. And millions suffer from the effects of environmental degradation and climate change. Excellencies, all of us are aware, for example, of the enormous infrastructure challenge confronting Africa. The African Development Bank, AFDB, estimates Africa's infrastructure needs at between 130 to 170 billion United States dollars annually, with a financing gap of between 68 billion and 180 billion dollars annually. The infrastructure gap has a negative impact on our competitiveness. It constrains our development, stifles business growth, trade, investment, and service delivery, as well as the overall progress towards inclusive and sustainable development. Mobilizing finance and investment remains central to Africa's development needs and attaining the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Our biggest challenge is not a scarcity of financing, but overcoming a global economic system that has not allocated sufficient long-term resources to support Africa's economic transformation. That is why boosting the resources of the IDA, whose ability to generate concessional financing represents an effective way to respond to the obstacles that African countries encounter in the present global system, is so critical for the prospects of Africa's development. With the burgeoning population, our challenges hinge on our ability to provide reliable electricity, affordable and decent housing, improved transportation networks, education, and health infrastructure. Without this, we will be staring down again the possibility of a lost decade characterized by suboptimal GDP growth. Excellencies, more than half of African countries are debt distressed. Ghana is currently going through the restructuring of her debts under the G20 Common Framework, which we all know is a slow process and needs to be stepped up. At the same time, we're suffering from the increasing effects of climate change and the devastations caused by COVID-19 and other adverse global developments. Doubling IDA to provide more concessional facilities to our countries is of utmost importance to help us cope with these challenges. The intersection between climate and debt makes imperative the need to reform the global financial architecture in a way that delivers more resources to our countries to help address the current polycrises affecting our development and that of future generations. Therefore, the time has come for us to redouble our efforts, to recommit ourselves to the principles of solidarity and shared responsibility, and to unlock the full potential of the IDA. This replenishment presents us with a unique opportunity to mobilize resources, to leverage partnerships, and to scale up our impact. It is a chance to invest in the future, in education, in healthcare, in infrastructure, and in the resilience of our communities. But let us be clear, this is not just about funding. This is about vision, about leadership, and about political will. It is about recognizing that development cannot be achieved through aid, but requires a comprehensive approach that addresses the root causes of poverty and inequality. It is about empowering communities, building capacity, and fostering innovation. And it is about ensuring that no one is left behind, that the most vulnerable amongst us are given the support and opportunity they need to thrive. In conclusion, I want to state that the task before us is daunting, but the stakes are too high for us to falter. Together we can shape a brighter future for generations to come. Together, we can build a world where every child has the opportunity to fulfill his or her potential, where every family can live in dignity and security, and where every nation can achieve sustainable development. Let us seize this moment, let us rise to the challenge, and let us make history. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Allow me to call on the President of the Federal Republic of Somalia, His Excellency Hassan Sheikh Mohammed. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Good morning, Your Excellencies. Your Excellency, Dr. William Ruto, President of Federal Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Mohammed Ghazwani, the President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and the Chairperson of African Union, Your Excellencies, fellow African leaders and heads of states, His Excellency, Your Excellency Mr. J. Banga, the President of the World Bank, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. As an opening, it is an honor and privilege to participate in this great occasion of the discussion of the African leaders on the future of financing of our common development agenda with the President of the World Bank, his senior leadership team and donors. Instead of well-replenished IDA21 means more opportunity for investment, job creation, economic growth, and effective response to the devastating global shocks like the climate change, which hampers all our progress despite our minimal contribution as a continent. Essentially, in this age of increasing global uncertainty, socio-economic, political, and security risks like the Red Sea crisis, as well as the enormous development financing need, we must ensure IDA21 becomes the main vehicle to support sustainable development. Without this, almost all developing low-income nations will struggle to deliver progressive changes from the offset. I wanted to thank the government and the Republic of Kenya and His Excellency President William Ruto for hosting this critical meeting on IDA21 replenishment and for bringing us all together. I also wanted to recognize the visionary leadership of His Excellency Ajay Bang, the President of the World Bank Group, who has demonstrated that he is firmly committed to leading a responsive bank that delivers results through the evolution roadmap. It is encouraging that the World Bank is listening, learning, innovating, and acting to provide a tailored context-specific support for our most urgent priorities to spark growth in Africa. Somalia and IDA for Somalia. IDA is a major lifeline that we are relying on enabling our ambitious national transformation agenda in these hopeful and post-debt relief priorities. IDA's impact on Somalia are enormous and include core institutional and system building, culminating in the achievement of heavily indebted poor countries have a completion point in December 2023. Up to 20% of the Somali population have benefited from the World Bank funded activities in Somalia since 2018. Approximately 69% of these beneficiaries were poor people living with small children and were affected by the drought, floods, and a locust infection in many parts of Somalia. Support to the rehabilitation of access roads and climate resistant infrastructure in many parts of Somalia and many municipalities and corners of Somalia bring various benefits to millions of people, including internally displaced people, IDPs, that had migrated to urban areas due to security, natural disasters, events. Provision of effective livelihoods and life-saving assistance to our citizens throughout the triple crisis of climate shocks, locust infestation, and COVID-19 pandemic. Essentially, IDA in Somalia has meant more vulnerable people out of extreme poverty, more social protection, and women and children are focused on supporting government institutions by helping those vulnerable groups. Despite our successful decade, long economic reforms to achieve debt relief throughout the highly indebted poor countries initiative, HIBIC, we remain among most fragile states in the African continent and the world. Without doubt, Somalia has come a very long way from where we were on a decade ago in terms of macroeconomic stability and socio-economic development. We also have exciting and empowering plans to keep the reform momentum going on, to lock in the vital gains we have made and build on them for a transformative change. However, these efforts require resources. Accordingly, we require the upcoming IDA21 replenishment to be of the scale and ambition that will help shift the situation from fragility to resilience and growth in Somalia. And this can only happen through greater investment in human capital, infrastructure, social protection, job creation, increasing affordable energy access, and building resilience to the disastrous and disproportionate impact of recurrent and cyclical climate emergencies in my country through IDA 2021. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as a government, we are truly committed to build on the economic reform gains from the debt relief process by the future. Further enhancing domestic revenue, mobilization and strengthening public and financial management, debt management, and deepening financial sector development in Somalia. We are cognizant that the most reliable income for the nation is what it collects from its citizens and investors to reinvest the priorities and the public service needs accordingly. With a focus on clear laws and more efficient and effective tax administration, we are steadily growing domestic revenues. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to conclude that IDA is a tool that helps Africa to progress, and in particular Somalia to move forward as fast as we can. Adjustments, tolerances, and flexibility is what is required in the years to come to benefit from the IDA resources. Again, I would like to thank the government and the people of Kenya for providing us this opportunity to discuss about the future of our nations in economic development. I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I would like to invite the President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, His Excellency Dr. Julius Maada Bio.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Your Excellency Dr. William Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya, the African Union Chairperson and President of the Republic of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, His Excellency Mohammed Ould Sheikh Al Ghazouani, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Governments, President Ajay Banga, and senior management of the World Bank Group, representatives of the United Nations, the African Union, and other regional bodies, representatives of governments, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I bring you very warm greetings from the government and people of Sierra Leone. I extend my deep gratitude to President William Ruto and the people of Kenya for hosting the 21st replenishment of the International Development Association Summit for Africa 2024. IDA21. I express similar appreciation to the International Development Association team and its partners for their relentless effort in accelerating the mobilization of much needed resources that will support the transformational development objectives of low-income countries, including those in our beloved continent. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Africa is at a crossroads. Our continent faces an array of challenges unique in its history. Recovery from the devastating impact of COVID-19, rising debt and economic vulnerability, political instability, the growing disruption of climate change, often compounding underlying fragilities, and the full crisis triggered by the conflict in Ukraine. According to the Sustainable Development Goal Report 2023, if the current trends persist, about 7% of the world's population, which is 575 million, will remain in extreme poverty, with most of them being in sub-Saharan Africa. Many governments in Africa are making huge strides to advance sustainable development and alleviate extreme poverty in their countries, in alignment with targets set out in the African Union Agenda 2063 and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. However, with 6 short years left to achieve the SDGs, most of our countries are not on track to meet the targets. Under current circumstances, a business as usual approach to Africa's development is not going to work. We need a change in our approach. We need a bolder vision that will transform Africa, reduce its vulnerability in a turbulent world, and set it firmly on a path to sustainable growth and prosperity. Our current exigencies call for decisive and collaborative actions from African governments and the international community, and reliable development partners such as the World Bank Group to usher in sustainable transformation in Africa. For IDA to remain relevant to the evolving needs of member countries, especially in Africa, it must grow and adopt responsive and innovative mechanisms to finance transformational development. Our collective aspiration to accelerate development in Africa by providing sustainable financing from IDA21 replenishment remains a critical milestone that must be achieved with resounding success. A renewed commitment to good governance, transparency, and accountability must be central to our efforts. These are the cornerstones upon which we can build resilient institutions and foster an environment conducive to investment, innovation, and economic growth. Therefore, Sierra Leone unreservedly endorses the Nairobi IDA communique and looks forward to working with recipient African nations to advocate for a mega 21st IDA replenishment. The communique reflects our vision to ensure prosperity of Africans and particularly safeguard the aspirations of Agenda 2063 and the SDGs, which aim to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that by 2030 all people enjoy peace and prosperity. Today, as we present the IDA Nairobi communique, we are optimistic that the provision of additional resources would support our vision for a climate-smart, resilient, and integrated Africa. The IDA21 resources should help our countries expand quality, sustainable, climate-smart infrastructure investment in agriculture, energy, transport, water, and sanitation, healthcare infrastructure, and other sectors. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Africa is key to global growth, security, and ending poverty in a livable planet. Despite the many threats our nations face, there are also real opportunities on the continent. Our natural resources, youthful population, and rapid growth of African cities and the middle classes have huge potential as they are beacons for investors to search in search of new markets. If Africa is to meet the targets of SDG 8, decent work and economic growth, by 2030, we must act now to transform the working age population into productive forces with more decent and inclusive jobs for the youth, especially our women. According to the International Labour Organization, ILO, over 72 million youths in Africa are not in education, training, or employment, and the majority of these are women. The IDA21 replenishment thus provides a window to increase job creation through scaling up private sector investment, increasing critical and growth sectors, promoting entrepreneurial skills technology and innovation, and boosting female empowerment. As measured by the World Bank's Human Capital Index, assuming that a child born in sub-Saharan Africa benefits from complete education and full health care coverage, he or she is anticipated to realize only 40% of future productivity. The Human Capital Index, this Human Capital Index is 48% for lower income countries and 71% for higher income countries. Clearly, we have more work to do for Africa. Therefore, stronger global cooperation and a commitment to investing in African capital, human capital, and creating a productive workforce are important ingredients in enabling developing countries to escape the trap of poverty and enhance economic growth and development. As we all strive to prioritize education and skills development, enhance quality health and well-being, and promote social protection policies and coverage, we must do so with a strong desire and will to advocate for increased resources that will make an indelible footprint in our lives for our people. In our collective action for IDA21 replenishment, we must ensure that women and girls, we must ensure that empowering women and girls is not optional. It is a condition for achieving inclusivity and sustainable development on our continent. We must allocate increased resources for gender mainstreaming in all our development programs. This includes improving women's access to productive resources, strengthening access to quality social services such as education, maternal and child health, addressing gender-based violence, and advancing women's leadership and representation in decision-making platforms. Also, given our prevailing fragilities, increased resources for security, conflict prevention and management, peace building, access to justice and crisis, and emergency response, we serve as important pillars in building stronger and more peaceful continent. But furthermore, as our countries seek to leverage the fourth industrial revolution technologies, scaling up digitalization efforts across the continent requires enormous financial resources. As global leaders, we must be resolute in changing the face of business processes, systems, and the models in our institutions. The call for IDA21 replenishment should ensure that we make additional investments in areas such as payment systems development, digital financial inclusion, fintech development, and digitalization of tax administration systems. Your Excellencies, closing Africa's huge infrastructure gap should be an important component of the blueprint for the pending IDA pooling of resources. Investment in critical infrastructure such as energy, roads, information, communication, and technology remain the pathway to a buoyant growth. Through the IDA21 resources, the World Bank's new energy program could support member countries in making huge investment in renewable energy sources and power transmission lines, an important sector required to spur economic growth and support our industrialization, as has been ably spoken to by our big brother, President Yoweri Museveni. Improving service delivery, accountability and transparency in governance is critical to all these. Strengthening domestic revenue mobilization efforts, improving public expenditure efficiency and management is key. Improving debt management and exploring innovative ways to deal with unanticipated shocks is of utmost importance to all of us. We anticipate that the IDA21 replenishment will further help countries with increased debt budget support for their development programs. In conclusion, most of our countries are facing dire economic challenges, worsened by high levels of debt service payment. Despite these financial challenges, my government remains committed to delivering people-centered development through our medium-term national development program plan. We are leveraging the big 5 game changers, priority areas of intervention to improve the quality of life of our people. These include 1, our flagship Feed Saloon program to boost agricultural productivity and achieve food security. 2, accelerating human capital development. 3, developing youth employment schemes. 4, revamping our public service architecture. And 5, infrastructure development and improving technology. We require substantial financial and technical support and strategic partnership to spur sustainable growth and social progress in Sierra Leone to alleviate extreme poverty in our country. Given the need to support the pact articulated in the Nairobi communique, I join my colleagues in the call to generate resources for IDA21 replenishment that will be significantly higher than the record 93 billion raised in 2022 for IDA20. As we continue this appeal, we are not oblivious to the challenging economic and geopolitical landscape that could have implications for major donor countries. We, however, remain optimistic that our traditional donors, new and emerging donors, and philanthropic organizations will once again rise to the occasion and give their valuable support to the IDA replenishment effort. Let us build a stronger Africa, share prosperity with IDA, and strengthen partnerships and cooperation to ensure that no one is left behind. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Before I invite the next leader onto the stage, may I very politely and humbly ask those who are yet to speak to keep to the allocated 5 minutes, please, if you can. Allow me on that note to invite His Excellency Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of the Federal Republic of Ethiopia, to the stage.
Your Excellency, President William Ruto, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Your Excellency, Aja Bange Urban Group, President, IDA, representatives of other regions, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to begin by thanking our host, my brother, President Ruto. As we gather today, our shared vision for prosperous, equitable, and sustainable future hinges upon our ability to address the pressing challenges faced by countries across the continent, while also harnessing the immense potential of its youth population. Allow me to shed light on the state of affairs in Ethiopia, a nation that has been harnessing resilience in the face of a spectrum of challenges, aggravated by external forces such as climate change, pandemic, geopolitical tension, and the soaring global cost of living. First and foremost, the Ethiopian government has navigated structural macroeconomic reforms amid challenges, focusing our attention on macro-financial stability, productivity enhancement, and favorable investment climate. Second, and central to our collective aspirations for a peaceful continent, we must foster dialogue and reconciliation. In late 2021, Ethiopia formed the National Dialogue Commission to lead inclusive talks, independently tackling ongoing conflicts with wide public involvement. The Commission has thus far had consultative dialogue involving tens of thousands of stakeholders over 2 years. Regional dialogue are eminent, aiming to expand participation further. Third, like many IDA countries, Ethiopia faces unemployment and a skill gap challenge, with the government prioritizing accessible education to empower citizens while encouraging youth engagement in startups across various fields. Investment in skills and education is central to Ethiopia's 10-year development plan, with a focus on sectors like agriculture, manufacturing, and tourism, expected to cover over 2 million new jobs. Fourth, universal energy access stands as a cornerstone for sustainable development. As it stands currently, half of our population is still without access to reliable electricity. We are massively investing on clean and renewable energy generation projects, which aims to accelerate universal access to affordable and reliable energy for all our people. Despite possessing over 60,000 megawatt potential from our diverse renewable energy sources, realizing this capacity demands substantial investment. Fifth, the digitalization of economies holds immense potential to enhance connectivity, spur innovation, and expand access to essential services. In Ethiopia, our telecom sector liberalization, mobile money, and digital payment system have expanded financial access in Ethiopia. The National Digital ID program we have launched is also a crucial step towards our digital transformation, greatly improving public service access. Lastly, as stewards of our planet, we must prioritize efforts to build a livable future for all. The Horn of Africa faces escalating threats from climate change, including rising temperature, food insecurity, and extreme weather events. Ethiopia is actively countering this challenge through its Green Legacy initiative, prioritizing afforestation, reforestation, and environmental conservation. With over 32.5 billion seedlings planted towards a goal of 50 billion over 2 phases. Ethiopia aligns with global agreements like the Paris Climate Change Agreement and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Excellencies, while the international development associations' existing support must be commended, the sheer scale for challenges many African countries faces necessitate a renewed approach. With 120 million people, Ethiopia has great potential for prosperity. Yet, as a key recipient of IDA support in Africa, Ethiopia faces a significant financing shortfall that may hinder its progress. Meeting the goals of IDA21 replenishment is vital to accessing essential development funds and driving Ethiopia toward its maximum potential. We urge IDA to significantly enhance its financial capacity and funding models, specifically increased support for crisis preparedness, response, and recovery is essential. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm very happy and excited to invite to the stage Her Excellency Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, President of the United Republic of Tanzania.
Your Excellency, President William Ruto, our host, Chairperson of the African Union, President Mohamed Ghazouani of Mauritania, Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, President of the World Bank, ladies and gentlemen, I thank President Ruto and the Government of Kenya for the warm hospitality extended to us and commend him on successful hosting of this summit. Last December, Tanzania hosted IDA20 midterm review meeting, which among other things highlighted the impact of IDA financing. In addition, to emphasize the need for an ambitious IDA21 replenishment, Tanzania reiterated as its appreciation for IDA's collaboration, which has helped to improve maternal and child health indicators, rural electrification rates, access to safe drinking water, and economic recovery more broadly. We believe that it should be a collective effort to highlight both the impactful success stories of IDA and the potential that IDA still has. Indeed, IDA has great potential to help its recipients to leverage resources from other partners. For instance, in Tanzania, we have an infrastructure project in Dar es Salaam called the Msimbazi Basin Development Project, which benefited from World Bank support worth $2 million. Having secured these resources, Tanzania has already been able to leverage an additional $60 million from other partners for this project, which aims at strengthening flooding or flood resilience and integrated urban development in our economic hub. Excellencies, in a bid to consolidate and building on the successes obtained during IDA20, we are pleased to advance this most important dialogue on IDA21. We are doing so at a time when Africa and the world are still facing the effects of multiple crises. In light of this crisis, coupled with significant shortfalls in development finance and shrinking fiscal space, what is required in going forward are more concessional resources. Moreover, considering the challenges related to present projected debt levels, we strongly believe that IDA21 should focus more on providing concessional loans, such as the 50-year credit loans. Given the present debt architecture on the continent, these facilities would provide more fiscal space to African countries to address competing development needs. Additionally, in the forthcoming IDA21 cycle, it is critical that policies are simplified and operational processes are streamlined. This is a matter that has a bearing on the access to development finance, the indirect cost of finance, and the achievement of the development objectives within the planned framework. Excellencies, all what would be discussed during this meeting are underpinned by investment in our human capital, which drives innovation and growth. And this is where my brother President Museveni was talking about. Africa needs transfer of technology and technical know-how. It will be recalled that in July 2023, Tanzania, in collaboration with the World Bank, hosted the African Heads of State Human Capital Summit. At that summit, we committed to investing in people for improving productivity and building inclusive and resilient economy. We believe that the commitments highlighted in Dar es Salaam Declaration on Human Capital are relevant and merit IDA's support. Excellencies, history attests to the transformative potential of IDA support for countries to transform and graduate. We expect the same spirit to guide us ambitiously in the IDA21 replenishment. It is on this basis that Tanzania also calls for an ambitious IDA21 replenishment that matches Africa's development aspirations with the resource needs. Once again, we commend IDA partners for their support and call upon them to honor their pledges to foster economic development and improve living conditions. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Allow me to invite to the stage His Excellency Evariste Ndayishimiye, the President of the Republic of Burundi.
Excellences, Monsieur Samuel William Ruto, Président de la République du Kenya, Excellences, Monsieur le Président de l'Union africaine et Président de la Mauritanie, Excellences, Monsieur le Président de la Banque mondiale, Excellences, Monsieur le chef d'État et de gouvernement, Excellences, distingués invités, Mesdames, Messieurs, permettez-moi de commencer mon discours en rendant gloire à Dieu qui nous a permis de nous retrouver dans cette belle ville de Nairobi et d'adresser mes remerciements à mon homologue et frère William Ruto pour l'accueil chaleureux et fraternel qui nous a été réservé depuis notre arrivée. Excellences, Mesdames, Messieurs, à l'instar d'autres pays, le Burundi se doit de redresser la tendance pour améliorer les conditions de vie des Burundais qui reflètent les inégalités sociales, d'opérer une transformation économique de manière à augmenter et diversifier la production sans entraver l'équilibre écologique, de maîtriser la démographie galopante et de pallier aux effets du changement climatique. Le peuple burundais s'est donné un pari de l'émergence en 16 ans à travers sa nouvelle vision d'un Burundi émergent en 2040
in Burundi
développé en
and
2060.
was developed in 2000. The Burundi people have also, beginning with the year, have also started fighting against and are looking towards sustainable development. So it is in this light that Burundi rejoices to be accounted amongst the partners, amongst whom in particular the World Bank. So the Burundi greatly appreciates the intervention of the World Bank over the years, the socio-economic growth. Now the financing and to have sustainable impact in the energy sector, economy, the environment, education, health, community development, infrastructures for transport and social development, context where our economy had been touched by shocks and whose effect COVID-19, the Ukrainian conflict, the world fiscal condition, climate changes, and to all this we can add the sanctions that Burundi has known since 2015. Now in 2023, this year was particularly marked by some slight improvement in our economic development and in the service sectors, the putting in place of social infrastructure and also abundant agricultural production, thanks to the cooperation that was lent to allocation that improved to the different sectors. Now, this effect also had in the improvement of performance in Burundi that is also seen in that improved for the 2022-2023 fiscal calendar, and which has been improved as we move to 2023-2024. This performance on our capacity also comes from the efforts and the reforms that have been initiated by the government, and especially in the summit meeting that enabled us to follow up on the projects, and also the strengthening of dialogue between the government and partners using the national strategy in the development cooperation, the strengthening of the budgetary discipline in state institutions, and also microeconomic reforms as part of our achievements. In the case of certain projects, I would cite the dynamic coordinating team for projects and also the diligence, the communities that also were also part of this team, and also in terms of fertilizers that we have had and seeds, and also the putting in place basic social infrastructure, and also integrated community development projects. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, with the new gap that Burundi has fixed, priorities that my country is looking at as we take part in IDA21 and environment health in face of climate change, especially on reforms in terms of economic governance and statistics, as well as development of important
l'industrie minière, le tourisme, l'énergie et les infrastructures. Excellences, Mesdames, Messieurs, à une situation exceptionnelle, il faut des moyens.
Ladies and gentlemen, in such an exceptional context, We have also been able to know that our tools in the industry are sometimes obsolete, and this also has an impact on production, and also the need for socio-economic integration, the effects of climate change in particularly, and especially the rise of Lake Tanganyika waters. We have had floods as well. These all lead me to advocate positively for aid
pour le financement de la stratégie nationale de réintégration socio-économique durable des personnes sinistrées récemment
people who have been affected, and this includes a project of retention of human labor. So we are confident the investments and the actions that are foreseen in the priority areas that we have identified that are in coherence with our 2024-25 vision and the objectives of development that allow for transformation in the continent will find favor with our technical and financial partners, with the World Bank, and also as we look to have economic growth. I'd like to end and as I express our thanks to the efforts of our leaders and also reaffirm the commitment of Burundi to play its role to ensure resilient and inclusive growth. I thank you all for lending me your ears.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Allow me to move swiftly forward and invite the President of the Republic of Madagascar, Your Excellency André Rajoelina. You're welcome to the stage.
Excellences, Monsieur le Président de la République du Kenya, Excellences, Messieurs les chefs d'État et de gouvernement, Monsieur le Président de la Banque mondiale, Mesdames et Messieurs les représentants de l'IDA,
and gentlemen, representatives of leaders and institutional financial institutions, and Your Excellency, our lenders, ladies and gentlemen,
je tiens tout d'abord
I would like to express my gratitude and my thanks
au président et au
to
peuple
the
kenyan
President and the people
pour l'hospitalité à l'endroit de ma délégation et moi-même
that my delegation and my team have received since our arrival here in Nairobi.
Je félicite le
I'd like
président
to congratulate President William Ruto for the organization and the World Bank for the regular organization of this high-level meeting that reunites the contributors and the leaders and the beneficiaries, and also to strengthen solidarity and to have a better path for our continent, that is Africa.
En effet, ce sommet nous
In
permet de
effect,
nous
this summit
exprimer
allows
pour
us to express
renforcer
ourselves to strengthen the financing of the African country pays, also to help us attain our development objectives and sustain the people lived through the consequences of climate change. The participation of Madagascar in this meeting is important because that gives me the opportunity to talk about the important, considerable impact of this project in Madagascar that is by the World Bank through IDA. Like you know, in the later years, the consequences of climate change have become more and more devastating. I'd like to take this opportunity to express my solidarity with the Kenyan people who are still going through today the consequences of tragic flooding for a number of weeks now. In Madagascar, the cyclones have become more and more frequent and violent. Like you know, my country is really exposed to climate change, and especially when we talk about the strategic position of the country and the character of our geographical position of our country makes us more vulnerable. The last cyclone into just destroyed the north of my country. Kilometers of roads were destroyed. Thousands of agricultural land was flooded and destroyed. And we have just, in a year, we've had about 4 successive cyclones. So that, I'd like to share with you that in one day, the cyclones need at least 2 to 3 years of reconstructions. Yet in the light of climate change, in the south, of the mainland, we have seen a diminution of the lands are arid and do not allow the people to fill them well and also to meet their basic needs. Families are living we have thousands of children who are also malnourished. Ladies and gentlemen, dear leaders, you know that each day for decades now, Africa faces fratricide to fight against poverty because this leads to deaths. We need more financing to be able to combat this, to win this war. Today, on the African more than 215 million children are suffering from underdevelopment and malnutrition. Like the African Bank of Development says, malnutrition is one of the causes, one principal causes of mortality of children under the age of 5. The daily reality of more people is touched by this tragedy. Now, in the light of such an obstacle, so the solutions that would look at investment in population, and that means that we need to be more powerful, that is more powerful and missiles. I'd like to thank the World Bank and its leaders for having given us the means to combat malnutrition in Madagascar. Today, you may not the military expenses as 2023 went up, highest in over 10 years. So we'd had up to millions of dollars, and we are also suffering the effects of the war in Ukraine. But I have a question. We have invested $2 billion for $2.14 billion on arms, but how much are we going to invest to save lives on the African continent? So I now to invite our partners and like-minded countries to commit finances to construct, fight this war that we fought, fight daily on the African continent, to develop and construct the Africa that we want. I am persuaded and convinced that with solidarity and international cooperation, we can have tangible solutions to this problem. Dear partners, I would like to share with you that since I became the head of Madagascar and since the beginning my second term, the cooperation with the World Bank have allowed for an positive evolution, for growth, and also to reduce the rate of crime in Madagascar, coming from 40% to 38% currently. So we are able to reduce it further, the level of malnutrition in Madagascar by another 4%. So I am persuaded that in a number of years we are going to have at least maybe 30 in maximum. We will be able to eradicate malnutrition in Madagascar. In the south of my country, a resilience program has also been put up, dealing with agriculture, water, and local governance. More than 2 million people have benefited from health services and nutrition, with at least 450 communities that have been strengthened. However, the investments in the system, in health system, have allowed us to save a number of lives. Money transfers and other social effects have also allowed us to come to the aid of more than 5 million people in 65%, amongst whom are 65% women. I'd like to thank the World Bank for all these years of collaboration, for financing that has been and have allowed us to improve our development on significant projects, and with our emergence program in Madagascar, and the results are palpable. I'd like to cite a few examples. Through the main town and also the construction of strategic roads, which has eased access to agricultural areas and the markets. So we have Madagascar has been existing. We have always had the problem of inaccessibility, but right now the road is tarmacked and it facilitates access of people and goods. This program has impacted and changed the daily life of the population in this region. You know that in Madagascar, about 80% of the population are agriculturalists, but unfortunately, the land does not belong to them. It is for this reason that I have this KICC project that has allowed us to distribute at least 2 million land title deeds of agricultural land, which represents 40% of the population. This will allow the exploitation, the farming, and benefit from the national heritage. Land is sacred, and it is part of our identity. Despite these major advancements, we still have complicated obstacles, and resilience is becoming more and more difficult. Madagascar needs more financing, and it has to be consequentially financing to help us tap to the resources that accumulated over the decades, and also to have electricity made accessible to the population in the big towns. The majority of African population, about 65% of Malgache families, do not have access to electricity. It is for this reason that we have put in place a program to electrify each home through a program which we call Azavana Wano, or Light for All. We have decided each household in Madagascar has a solar kit. So our objective is within a year and a half, for more than 4 million households will have this kit to light up their houses, and thus will also lead us to an economy that will see $950 million that which is spent in, and that is about $2 per home for this lighting project. So this is what we are talking about on the African continent. Ladies and gentlemen, dear partners and leaders, like I had said, and I have just done so. So all this investment is to support. It is not only where we are functional. We also have a number of the harms that are devastating us: hunger, famine, natural catastrophes, illnesses, and most of them are brought about by climate change. These are the kind of harms I'm talking about that are touching us annually, and each day there are millions of children who succumb to malnutrition. Millions of people die of hunger. And we also have others who do not get adequate access to health because as they suffer from the devastating effects of climate crisis and change. I'd like to invite as leaders to also improve from the World Bank, because Africa has many obstacles to face, and also enable the countries to catch up in terms of development. May our voice go out as an echo. May it also speak about our engagement as we better future for all. And together, we'll be able to make a difference. Together, we transform poverty into a prosperous future and with a dignified for our people, so that all generations, the lead generations, depend on what the leaders do today. Thank you to our partners, partner countries, and also to the contributors to IDA. Your aid is determining in development, on the African continent, and as such, for a country like Madagascar, we support this for our country. So long live today's leaders who are bringing development for tomorrow. Thank you very much for your attention.
Merci beaucoup, Votre Excellence.
Thank you so much, Excellency.
Next head of state to address us, I'd like to recognize the presence of the former Prime Minister of Kenya, Mr. Raila Odinga, and the Chief Justice of Kenya, Martha Koome. You're both welcome. Allow me to ask His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Malawi, Mr. Lazarus McCarthy Chakwera, to come to the stage.
Your Excellency and my brother, Dr. William Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya, Your Excellencies, heads of state and government, Your Excellency Mr. Jai Banga, President of the World Bank, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Over the past 4 years, Malawi has been through the hardest times, and everyone in my country feels it. Like a patient suffering from serious multiple attacks against multiple organs in quick succession, in the less than 60 months I've been president, Malawi, a nation I found already drowning in unsustainable and toxic levels of debt, has not only suffered the devastation of the COVID pandemic, but before we had any time to recover, was attacked by cyclones Ana and Gombe back to back. And before we had any time to recover from that, came the worst cholera outbreak in our nation's history, affecting every district. And before we had any time to recover from that, came a drought devastating the breadbasket northern districts of Malawi. And before we had any time to recover from that, came the monstrosity of Cyclone Freddy, killing thousands, displacing over 500,000, and trampling on decades of development gains and food crops for millions. And now, before we have had any time to recover from that, we have been hit by El Nino weather that has forced me to declare a state of disaster in 23 out of 28 districts, making me the first president in Malawi's history to declare a state of disaster every year of his time in office thus far. And if hearing all this makes you feel like Malawi should not have survived such shocks, you're right. But I came here to tell you that Malawi is a miracle, because despite the anguish Malawians have gone through and the pains they feel, Malawi has not only survived, but is in fact showing signs of recovery. And one of the secrets to our survival and recovery has been the World Bank's IDA, which I'll describe as Malawi's trusted and reliable ambulance in addressing the structural imbalances on the physical, current account, and monetary side occasioned by the shocks we have encountered. And like any good ambulance, IDA has saved Malawi from the brink by operating at 2 speeds simultaneously. The faster speed to immediately treat the collapsing organs of our aiding economy in real time whenever disaster strikes, using quick response instruments to mitigate the impacts of external shocks on the poorest, and the slower speed to get the economy to the hospital for long-term treatment through structural reforms for sustainable and inclusive recovery. On the faster speed of immediate treatment inside the ambulance, IDA has swiftly provided Malawi support to respond to national, regional, and global emergencies affecting food security and balance of payments. Key to this have been initiatives like the Social Support for Resilient Livelihoods Project that aims at responding and building national resilience to disasters. Another example was the $60 million in IDA support we got from the crisis response window to restore the operations of Kapichira Power Plant, which was damaged by cyclones Ana and Gombe, resulting in the loss of 1/3 of our electricity generation capacity. Similarly, IDA is financing big reconstruction and infrastructure damaged by Cyclone Freddy last year, as well as helping us scale and smarten up our social protection systems and engage communities in the restoration of forestry, riverbanks, and degraded landscapes. A more recent example is how the bank has quickly responded to my appeal for $446.5 million in international support for the 9 million Malawians in need of food assistance in the face of El Nino. And it has done so by releasing $57.62 million to support the country's disaster response, while a further $7 million is coming through the sovereign drought insurance policy with the Africa Risk Capacity, ARC. So in total, the emergency care we have received inside the IDA ambulance en route to the hospital has risen from an average of $100 million in disbursements 4 years ago to now around $6 million, which is a record. In fact, Malawi is the first African country to sign up to the IDA's new crisis response toolkit, which will enable IDA to respond even more rapidly going forward. But let me conclude by talking about our ambitions for IDA on the long-term structural issues. Our ambitions go beyond stabilizing the patient, as we have done with our macroeconomic conditions, through our close collaboration with IDA and the International Monetary Fund, IMF. Our ambition is to access even more substantial facilities in the IDA and other instruments the bank has tailor-made for us so that we can invest in the implementation of our ATM strategy, which aims at making heavy investments in the economic potential and productivity of our agriculture, tourism, and mining sectors. Our ambition is to create an inclusively wealthy middle-income economy within the next 6 years by creating mega farms that feed the world by leveraging irrigation technologies that transcend weather conditions. Our ambition is to generate foreign revenue through tourism products that make Malawi the destination of choice for tourists. Our ambition is to generate wealth from our bastion of mineral riches by adding value to them and using the revenue to develop our people, our public service delivery, our industries, and our infrastructure through the operationalization and capitalization of the newly formed Malawi Development Cooperation. We will therefore appeal for flexibility in the accessibility of IDA facilities, for our ambition is for the bank to go beyond in-ambulance emergency treatment and in-hospital long-term recovery. Our ambition is for the bank to partner with us in building a new Malawi, one that is healthy, a healthy economy capable of being productive and competitive globally, leveraging on the new opportunities and markets emerging from the African Continental Free Trade Area. And to safeguard the impact of your investments in this ATM strategy, we have rolled out a fully integrated and comprehensive financial management information system, IFMIS, that will support our first program for results, P4R, financing with IDA. We have implemented energy sector reforms to crowd in new private investors through public-private partnerships. We have enacted the Malawi Disaster Risk Management Act to put our disaster risk management framework in order. And we are seized of the urgency of reconfiguring our civil service to focus on rewarding execution and delivery of projects, not entitlement and dysfunction. I must therefore thank the World Bank for recognizing these reforms by resuming general budget support to Malawi under Development Policy Operation, DPO. After a decade-long hiatus and following Malawi's successful qualification for the IMF's Extended Credit Facility, ECF, 6 months ago. And with these remarks, Malawi fully welcomes the replenishment of the IDA as a vehicle for economic transformation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, I'm going to politely and humbly reiterate the request for the remaining leaders to try to keep their comments to the agreed 5 minutes. On that note, allow me to invite Son Excellence, His Excellency Nadir Labawi, Prime Minister of the People's Democratic Republic of Algeria. Welcome to the podium, sir.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, William Ruto, President of Republic of Kenya, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to convey to Your Excellency and to the brotherly people of Kenya the warmest greeting from your brother, Excellency President Tebboune, who honored me by representing him at this important summit and delivering his statement, the text of which is as follows. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. فخامة السيد ويليام روتو رئيس جمهورية كينيا الشقيقة، فخامة رئيس الجمهورية الإسلامية الموريتانية والرئيس الحالي للاتحاد الإفريقي السيد
President of AU Mohamed Eswani, Excellency or Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, in the beginning, allow me to give my congratulations to President William Ruto and to the people of Kenya, the brotherly sided people, for the good thing of this important summit and this successful meeting. And this summit has a lot of importance because it's basic to fund African since its establishment and this IDA, International Development Authority, and this give us the way to solve the challenges that faces us, especially in the level of debts and the funding, which once allowed to get the essential financing for their services like health, education, and climate to
لعام 2030 ويحول دون معالجة الأسباب الجذرية التي تغذي النزاعات وعدم الاستقرار. أصحاب الفخامة والمعالي والسعادة، تؤكد الجزائر مجددا على الدور التمويلي المحوري الذي تطلع به المؤسسة الدولية للتنمية، كما تشيد بتخصيصها لأكثر من 70% من مجموع التزاماتها لإفريقيا خلال العملية 20 لإعادة تأسيس موارد المؤسسة. وتطلع الجزائر إلى انتهاج مقاربة طموحة ونوعية في عملية إعادة تأسيس الموارد
to help in the Africans for the needs of the countries which are benefited and will continue to fund so that to resolve the issue of lack of funding in the various issues which are of priority for us. In addition, funding of development in Africa is linked to the African vision and African Union of vision for 2063, which Algeria
وإنجاز مشاريع تنموية أخرى بعدة دول
development projects in the neighboring countries.
التي رافعت دوما عن قضية التنمية في إفريقيا وكان لها دور ريادي في المسعى الجماعي لإرساء نظام اقتصادي جديد عادل وشامل تتطلع إلى جعل هذا اللقاء الهام منصة لتقاسم الخبرات وتشارك التجارب الناجحة لإثراء النقاش واستكشاف السبل الأمثل للدفع بالتنمية في قارتنا. ومن هذا المنطلق أود الإشارة إلى الإصلاحات الاقتصادية العميقة التي باشرتها الجزائر لبناء نموذج اقتصادي جديد قائم على تنويع الاقتصاد وخلق الثروات وتحرير روح المبادرة. وبفضل هذه الجهود حققت بلاد الجزائر
to support the progress in the last 2 years, which has been supported by Algeria, and to continue with the social development, to fund the infrastructure in the continent. We have come with an issue with a new infrastructure and the investment to come with this law, with the transparency, to work with the national and foreign investment and with a new scheme so that to invest in this and to come with the banking and financing for the Algerian banks, especially in the African continent. And on the social, we want to continue to have a social justice and enable the citizen to get the services, all the sectors. This is a balanced agreement of development within the country, and which has made Algeria to realize the objectives of the sustainable development in our continent. Excellencies, in conclusion, I would like to renew our commitment to work with all the countries and to support all that will come out from this summit, which is necessary for our African continent as a plan to work with the to continue for a good future and sustainable development. I thank you for listening to me, and thank you very much. May peace be upon you all.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much to the Prime Minister of the People's Democratic Republic. I would like to now take this opportunity to say thank you to all heads of states and leaders for their statements and invite my colleague, Michael Gitonga, back on stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne. Can we give a clap, please? Thank you. And all other excellencies and heads of delegation will speak at the next session, and we'll handle that. So for us to transition to the next session, I will just guide you. We're going to have all the heads of state, only heads of state, to exit the room while the rest of us will remain seated. So at this point, I would like to kindly request all the heads of state to exit the room. They'll be guided by protocol officers where we'll have a family photo. Kindly note only heads of state to exit. The rest of us, please, let's remain seated, and I'll guide you shortly. For those participating in the closed-door session, we will proceed from here to that room so that the heads of states, after the family photo, they will find us ready for them. So only heads of states to exit, where we'll proceed for the family photo at the front courtyard. At the front of the courtyard by the stairs. The rest, kindly, let's remain seated. For those participating in the closed door session, we'll proceed to the closed door room, which is to your right, my left. But I'll guide you on when we'll do that, once we've had all the heads of state having exited the room. Thank you.